What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton, one of the most successful pilots of all time, is driving in Ferrari? What if it were his pilot style, that legend did, the real culprit of his current suffering in the Scuderia? Nico Rosberg has just released a bomb that could change everything. Everything exploded in the 2025 Hungary Grand Prix. It was there that the bubble of silence was broken, the gray area of respect between champions. Nico Rosberg, in a live broadcast, broke ranks and described Hamilton's performance as something worth compassion and concern, not admiration. It was like seeing a master pianist to stumble with the keys. That phrase, loaded with irony and disappointment, was not just an observation from the commentator cabin. It was a sentence, an emotional and technical radiography of a pilot who, for the first time in more than a decade, seems disconnected from his machine. And what really shook Paddock was not only what, but who. That it was Rosberg who said it, his old rival, his former partner in Mercedes, with whom he starred in one of the most intense and toxic battles in the recent history of Formula One, gave his words a double burden. He meets Hamilton better than anyone on the grill. He knows how he thinks. He knows how he drives. And above all, he knows when he is suffering. Rosberg said it bluntly, the car is driving incorrectly. It was not an empty criticism or a television show comment. It was a diagnosis, one that many inside the paddock had whispered, but that nobody dared to pronounce in front of the cameras. Because questioning Hamilton's pilot is almost taboo. It's like doubting gravity. But there, in Budapest, that silent truth became public. And it is not a matter of pure speed. Hamilton is still fast. It has reflexes. It has career reading. He is hungry. But his style, the same that led him to the top, is now betraying him. The car does not respond as he expects. Each lap becomes a fight against instinct. It is as if the pilot was trying to touch a symphony in an offered piano, knowing that each key sounds different from how it should. That career in Hungary not only revealed a technical problem, he revealed an identity crisis. Lewis is not comfortable, and that feels in each curve, in each braking, on each radio. And the most disturbing, if its greatest virtue today is its greatest obstacle, how is a pilot reinvents that built its legacy about a specific way of attacking the asphalt? Rosberg's blow was not physical, but it was just as painful. It was a mirror on in front of a champion that perhaps did not expect to look so vulnerable, so human, so out of place. And for all of us who saw that race, it was clear that it was not a bad day. It was the symptom of something deeper. Something that neither pure talent nor the name in the helmet can solve. Here we are not talking about tenths lost by bad luck or a slightly wrong tuning. We are talking about a structural mismatch between a legendary driving style and a car that is simply not made for him. What Alex Brundle revealed after reviewing Lewis Hamilton's telemetry was an uncomfortable technical truth and, at the same time, irrefutable. Hamilton is not piloting badly due to lack of talent, but because his way of attacking the curves is directly interfering with the behavior of the Ferrari SF25. The analysis showed a minimal but constant difference in brake pressure in high-speed curves. Hamilton stops just a little stronger than Leclerc. It seems insignificant. But in a Formula One car, where each element is optimized to the millimeter, that excess becomes a determining factor. Each extra brake application interrupts the harmony of the car, destabilizes the dynamic balance, and directly affects the way the Ferrari transfers the weight forward. And that is just the beginning. By slightly overloading the front axle with that additional pressure, Hamilton causes a microdesajust chain that end up completely decomposing the stability of the car at the curve input. The steering wheel begins to register constant corrections. The car becomes nervous, unpredictable. Not because the chassis is poorly designed, but because it is calibrated for another type of pilot. A softer, more progressive, more anticipated. Leclerc, for example, stops before, more in a straight line, and releases the brakes before turning completely. Broken the car with the minimum possible movement. This technique allows SF25 to maintain a constant airflow on the diffuser, which is essential for aerodynamic performance. Instead, Hamilton enters later with an active brake while the rotation begins. He is accustomed to that since the years of Mercedes, where that technique was pure gold. But in Ferrari, it's poison. What impacts Brundle's analysis most is not just what he sees in the graphics. It is how each small friction point between Hamilton's style and the sensitivity of the car translates into a generalized loss. Loss of grip, increase in tire degradation, difficulty maintaining the ideal, and, most serious drawing of all, loss of pilot's confidence. And when confidence in F1 is lost, everything is lost. This is not something that is solved with a technical meeting or a change of adjustments between sessions. It is a root incompatibility. It is like putting a professional violinist to play in an instrument whose tuning responds to a different code than the one he knows. You can get some notes, you can adapt to some extent, but it will never sound as it should. And meanwhile, those who listen, or in this case, those who look from the paddock, perceive that something does not fit. Telemetry does not lie. It reflects that, although the times back between Hamilton and Leclerc are sometimes close, the way they reach those times is completely different. One surfing on a natural balance. The other is fighting against a platform that resists its way of understanding speed. Hamilton, by applying his classic trail-breaking style, introduces abrupt pimp changes. And those movements, instead of stabilizing the car as happened in Mercedes, collapse the airflow below the SF25. The diffuser enters turbulence. The soil stops generating suction. The back begins to slide. And the worst of all is that this behavior is not constant. Curve varies curved, return, causing the car to be unpredictable in the hands of the British. A technical trap that cannot be escaped without changing the root of the problem. Driving style, Ferrari has not remained indifferent. The engineers have spent full days trying to expand the car operating window to tolerate Hamilton's demands. Everything has been tested. Modify the rake to alter the longitudinal inclination of the chassis, redistribute the weight towards the front axle to improve the support, and even soften the behavior of the rear suspension with new components of variable geometry. But each of these adjustments has a collateral cost. Improve stability in a curve and destroy the passage through medium curve. Water wet, but you lose thermal efficiency in rear tires. It is a puzzle where each piece fits only if it moves with surgical care. The SF25 was conceived, not with Hamilton in mind, but with Charles Leclerc as a development axis. The Monegasco has shaped, together with Maranello's engineers, a car that responds to its soft touch, its curve anticipation, and its almost telepathic weight control. Modifying that base would be like building a new identity for the car. And in a season as short on margins as this, that is unfeasible. What remains then is a painful crossroads. Hamilton has a car that does not forgive his old habits in front. Ferrari faces the pressure of giving results while dealing with a deep technical incompatibility. And the most ironic of all is that, in absolute terms, SF25 is not a bad car. It has a rhythm. It has potential. But that potential only manifests when it is led by someone who does not fight against him, but flows with him. For Hamilton, that implies more than settings in the configuration. It implies a personal transformation. Adapt or be consumed by a machine that does not understand, not tolerate, improvisation. This is where everything becomes more human. Because behind the technique of aerodynamic analysis, telemetry and figures, there is a mind. A mind that has been living to the limit for more than 15 years, making decisions in fractions of a second, absorbing pressure at levels that would break most people. And for the first time in a long time, that mind is in conflict. Not with others, with itself. The most complex for an elite pilot is not wasting time on track. It is not understanding why he is losing it. And that is exactly what is happening to Hamilton. Each session returns a different car, a different response, a different sensation. Instead of building on certainties, it is operating on moving terrain. And that affects not only his technical performance, but his emotional perception of himself as a pilot. The adaptation is not happening with the speed I expected. He said it himself. He thought he could cut the process, that his experience would be enough to quickly dominate the Ferrari. But reality has taught him a painful lesson. Talent by itself is not enough. Time, humility is required, and something that many champions resist accepting. Unlearning. And while that process occurs, the environment does not help. The media pressure is constant. Each movement of yours compares with Leclerc. Each error is amplified. Every doubt becomes narrative. And the most cruel is that Formula One does not expect. There are no pauses for introspection. Every weekend there is a new opportunity and a new threat. Adaptation is not simply a technical issue. It also requires an emotional and philosophical transformation. It implies accepting that not everything that made its style great is applicable here. That sometimes stopping later is not synonymous with being faster. To control the car at the curve entrance does not mean imposing a rhythm, but to listen to what the car needs. And above all, accept that at this point in his career, the greatest act of strength can be to accept their own limitations and build on them. The first indications of change have already been seen. In some sessions, Hamilton has tried to anticipate its braking, reduce the use of the steering wheel in the initial rotation, and even copy some of the Leclerc patterns into medium-speed curves. And although these adjustments are not yet translated into overwhelming results, they do represent a sign that the pilot is willing to explore new paths. Rosberg not only talked about Hamilton, he talked about the eternal challenge of this category, adaptation, of the risk of believing that talent is enough, of the difficulty of leaving behind what one was to become what one needs to be. Because in this sport, as in life, evolving is not optional. It is mandatory. And now I leave you the question. Do you think Hamilton will adapt to SF25 and be that pilot who seemed unbeatable? Or are we attending in real time the decline of a legend? Is this stage in Ferrari the beginning of your reinvention or your farewell? Leave me your opinions in the comments.